going to talk about homework number 2. Homework number 2 was done quite well. Questions 1 and 2 were done quite well. It was mainly question 3 that I want to talk about. Now the first part of question 3 was done quite well as well, and it asks you to show that 8 minus 3 root 7, this is question 3, multiplied by 8 plus 3 root 7 equals 1. Now we're studying the ring Z with a root 7 thrown in here. Remember, this is the blueberry jam part that we're going to stir into our integers. We can just multiply this out. You discover it's a difference of 2 squares, and you get that this bit gives you a 64, this bit gives you a minus 63, and you get 1. And then it said, hence, solve this equation, 8 plus 3 root 7 x equals 3. Now you might think that's not a very difficult equation to solve because you can just divide by that. But I'd like to say 2 things. First of all, the question said hence. What does hence mean in a maths question? Hence means using the thing that you just did. It's not saying do it any old how. It says use the thing you just did. So you're supposed to use that. And most people didn't use that, which makes it wrong. The second thing is that a very popular thing to do was to say, well, in that case, x must equal 3 divided by 8 plus 3 root 7, and then you're going to rationalize the denominator, which means that you multiply the top and bottom by 8 minus 3 root 7, and then you discover that the bottom is exactly what you just showed up here, which multiplies out to 1. So then you've just got 3 times 8 minus 3 root 7 divided by 1, and then you can multiply that out and you get 24 minus 9 root 7. Now it's sort of using this part because you're using the fact that the bottom multiplies out to 1. But the thing is that what's actually going on here? This is kind of missing the point, right? Because what does this mean? The first step of this missing the point argument was to show that x, you use the fact that x equals 3 over 8 plus 3 root 7. But what does that actually mean? What does that mean? Well, dividing by something in a ring actually means multiplying by the multiplicative inverse. So what this actually means, really means multiply by the multiplicative inverse for 8 plus 3 root 7. Now, the thing is that, yes, if you did it this way, when you multiplied these bottom bits together, you are using the first bit. But what you've missed is the fact that when you wrote this part down here, you had already used the first part of this question, because you have absolutely no right to write down this division unless you know that this part is a unit. Because what you're saying is multiply by its multiplicative inverse. If you don't know it has a multiplicative inverse, how are you going to multiply by its multiplicative inverse? The answer is you can't. And so the point is that in this part of the question, we showed that this has a multiplicative inverse. Has a multiplicative inverse. And only once you've shown it has a multiplicative inverse can you even think about doing that. Now the rest of this part over here is kind of useless, right? Because also, in this first part of the question, we've discovered what the multiplicative inverse for this thing is. Oh look, it's this. This is the multiplicative inverse for that. So multiplying 3 by the multiplicative inverse for this is just the same as multiplying 3 by that multiplicative inverse. And that's how you get the answer, 24 minus 9 root 7. Okay? So what's actually happened here is, here's another way of putting it, a much better way of saying it is multiply both sides by 8 minus 3 root 7. Okay, then the left-hand side becomes, this disappears because that's the multiplicative inverse, and that becomes 3 times it. So then we get, this gives 8 minus 3 root 7 multiplied by 8 plus 3 root 7, x equals 3 times 8 minus 3 root 7. This bit is 1, so we get x equals, and then we can multiply this bit out. 24 minus 9 root 7. In general, we had rs equals 1, right? So if we're asked to show that sx equals some other thing like t, then we can solve this by multiplying on the left by r. Is solved by saying rsx equals rt. This bit turns into a 1, so we get 1 times x equals rt, and the solution is therefore x equals rt. And that's the end of question 3.